Welcome to In Touch Crime Beat. I'm Officer Don with Fayette Commonwealth Attorney Ray Larson.
Out of jail, okay? Don't mess up.
And those are the people, those repeat offenders, the ones that go to prison. And
I say we're the #1 rated radio show in the whole country. I'm Officer Don with Fayette Commonwealth.
Welcome to In Touch with Officer Don and Ray the D.A. I'm your host, Jenna McNeil. This week on In Touch, Ray and Officer Don discuss the shooting of the head of the Colorado Corrections Department, Tom Clements. Mr. Clements was shot at his home in Monument, Colorado, north of Colorado Springs, by an assailant who was recently released from prison. Officials later discovered that the defendant still had 4 years to serve for assaulting a guard and was let out due to clerical error. Ray and Officer Don also discussed how the media is not focusing on this fact. Ray said that if the justice system was not focused on catching and rushing to release criminals everywhere in the country, we would not have these clerical errors. We also learned of recent news of a defendant who went on a violent rage toward the prosecutor of his case, murdering the prosecutor and harming his family. Criminal justice advocates are too often harmed by violent offenders who have gotten away with too much in the criminal justice system. Listen now to learn more about these issues. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to In Touch. I'm Officer Don with Fayette Commonwealth Attorney Ray Larson. Ray, in the news this week, some scary stuff, especially from a prosecutor's perspective. We'll start first with the Colorado. I guess he's the head of their corrections department. He was gunned down at his home.
answered the door.
Answered the door, and it is gunned down by someone who had just recently been released from prison. And, the horrific thing about that situation, if it could get any more horrible, is now they've discovered that that person that had been released was not supposed to be out of prison. He had 4 years left to serve for assaulting a guard. Somehow, because of a clerical error, they let this guy out, and what does he do? He goes straight to the home of the head of the Department of Corrections here in Colorado and murders the guy right in front of his family.
Yeah. Well, none of this would happen if we weren't in the catch and release business everywhere in the country.
The rush to release.
Yeah, that's even better.
Yeah.
If they had to serve their sentences, then guess what? You wouldn't have clerical errors, trying to figure out when they get out or when they don't get out, or those kind of things. That's baloney. Mm-hmm. And to let this guy out.
One thing that I've noticed, I don't see a lot in the media about the fact that this guy was released because of an error 4 years early and killed this prosecutor. I just would have to think that if the circumstances were different, maybe they would be all over it. I mean, it just doesn't seem.
What do you mean if they were different?
Well, it's like the media tends to grab onto certain things and just run with it and beat it into the ground, but they have really not addressed that fact that this guy was released 4 years early. You see it here and there, but it's not something that they're really making a 3-day story. Now, we know in the business what that means. A 1-day story is where you get an honorable mention on something in the media and they move on. A 3-day story is where they decided that it's important enough to make a change, to push for a change, and they push and push and push and push and ram it down your throat and push that agenda. It's just not there. I mean, a lot of people I talk to don't even realize that this guy was released because of a clerical error.
Don, not doing it is also their agenda. By not covering it, it's their agenda. They want people released from prison. They've taken the position that we have too many people in prison. They bought that BS, you see. And so now what they're doing is anytime they get into this business of saying, uh-oh, this guy was getting out early. He was going to get out early anyway, but he got out 4 years early by a mistake. All that does.
Well, and how many times in law enforcement or in your role as a prosecutor, tell you something, you don't get it. There's not a lot of fudge factor in the world of police. If something goes wrong, normally they look for who to blame. Is the point. And even if it's something that from the outside you look and go, look, sometimes things happen. You do the best you can. But in this particular case, the word, well, okay, they let him out by accident. We'll move on to the next thing. It's like, that's a big deal. That's crazy.
It is a big deal.
And it makes you wonder what the follow-up to this could be, because I guarantee you that if you start scrutinizing, because of this rush to release, you would see that this probably happens more often than people realize. That people, because look, if I'm a prisoner and they let me out early, I'm not going to call it to their attention. Oh, by the way, I think you made a mistake. I've got 5 more years to serve. It's not going to happen. And so unless somebody digs to see how often this occurs, it's going to keep happening.
Why, Officer Don, does the assassination of a prosecutor garner so much more media attention than the fact in 2012 there were 72 police officers killed in the line of duty?
Well,
Or so far in 2013 there have been 28 police officers killed in the line of duty. What's the difference?
It's a big deal when you kill a cop or when you kill a prosecutor, and it's not because Ray Larson is more special than everyone else and his life is worth more. Everyone's life's important, but what you're doing is you're attacking the foundation of law and order of our whole system, and it's the only thing that stands between good people and the bad guys, are your prosecutors and your police. And someone who has the audacity to attack that symbol of our system is especially dangerous. They're attacking all of us, is the bottom line. And if you don't protect and if you don't take that seriously, God knows what they'll do to an unarmed citizen or to someone who hasn't had the training. You know, that's really the core reason that you have to treat people differently that commit that kind of crime. Don't you agree?
Sure, I agree.
Whether it be a judge, a jury member, a police officer, a prosecutor, you absolutely have to go crazy when one of those people are assaulted. You have to.
Well, somebody asked me about this yesterday, and I said, this is the way they do it in Mexico. This is the way the Mexican drug cartels deal with somebody that's picking on them. What they do is they just go kill them. Make no bones about it. They kill the prosecutors, they kill the police, they kill judges, they kill everybody. Not even blink. And have we gotten to that point? Or have there been lessons learned? And in Texas, is there a possibility that this is part of the Mexican mafia doing this kind of stuff? I mean, I don't think they've caught anybody yet. I think they suspect some sort of white supremacist operation because this prosecutor, along with the federal people, were involved in prosecuting the white supremacist group. I'll tell you what they learned. I just read today is the prosecutor in Texas that was just assassinated was shot 20 times. So
This is the one that his wife was killed too, is that correct?
That's right.
Man, how crazy is that?
This is big stuff.
That's just unbelievable. And there again, it rocks the very foundation of our justice system. What's left of our justice system? And part of the reason that people have the audacity to do this is they don't have any respect for our justice system anymore. They're not afraid, and that's what they're telling you. I'm not scared of you. I'm going to rock the whole core of this. And in places like Mexico, this is not uncommon. Whenever you have a society that crumbles completely, that's one of the last signs. Iraq, when they were having all those issues trying to prosecute people for war crimes, they were killing the judges left and right. They want to make you afraid to take part in the system, afraid to stand up.
Hey, do you know that there was I read this, that there was an assistant U.S. attorney in Houston asked to be taken off the prosecution of gang members because he was afraid. That's what they hope for, I guess.
Well, and unfortunately, it doesn't happen very often with our prosecutors, but it does happen. It's happened here in Kentucky. Fred Capps,
Yep.
prosecuting a violent sex offender. Guy shows up at his house, kills Fred right in his hallway, right in front of his wife.
And they had a shootout.
Now, but you know what? Fred stood up and Fred killed him too. But, still, you're like, wow, that's just unbelievable when you have that happen. And there again, it's not because cops and prosecutors' lives are worth more, but what they represent is so important.
Tune into the following stations to hear the full episode.